Adam, let's start with Carolina and Duke this weekend. 112th meeting between the Heels and the Blue Devils. They first started playing in 1888. This series was not competitive for a long time. Carolina won 22 out of 23, I believe, was the number in the 90s and the 2000s. But the last 10 to 15 years, this has been a much more competitive series. Carolina's won, it's 7-6 Carolina in the last 13 games. So it's been a competitive series. Tar Heels had won 5 in a row before. Remember, it was a meltdown last year. Heels led 20-0 in the third quarter and lost 21-20. So Blue Devils have the bell. Tar Heels want the bell. And Adam, and of course Carolina plays State as well next week and 2 weekends from now. And I kind of feel like Duke and State are very similar. I've been doing a little bit of stuff for State, but obviously I've been focusing on Duke. They both have good quarterbacks. Duke's is Darian Mensah, transfer from Tulane. Well documented that he got the bag to come to Durham and play quarterback. Where else would you want to go? And he's been good. I mean, he leads the ACC in passing yards. He's third in the country. He's averaging better than 300 yards per game passing. I think if it wasn't for Haynes King, he'd probably be first team all conference, but Haynes King's likely going to get player of the year in the conference, and deservedly so. But Mensah's been really, really good. Cooper Barkate is a wide receiver transfer from Harvard. He's got 53 catches and 6 touchdowns this year. He's made some big plays for him. They've really gotten their tight end involved. Jeremiah Hasley here in recent weeks. He's been effective for them. They just have a really good offense. And I feel like I was tying this to State. Like, again, kind of like State, I feel like they have good quarterback, good offense. The defense has not been as consistent. They do have a good defensive front, and there's been times where that defensive front has controlled some games for them, but they give up a lot of yards. I mean, they're 117th in the nation in yards allowed. They're giving up 420 yards per game. They're giving up 30 points per game. But here's the issue. Carolina has struggled mightily to get yards and points. And so I do think this is kind of strength on strength here, Adam, whereas Carolina's defense is pretty clearly the better of the two units. Well, the coaches told me there's actually 3 sides to the football, Adam. Special teams is one, too, where actually Duke has really struggled. They have run a kickoff back and a punt back for a score, but they've also like randomly dropped field goal snaps multiple times this year. They've had a couple fake punts executed against them. So while we were joking, Duke actually has had some trouble on special teams. But Carolina's defense is the strongest unit. Duke's offense is its strongest unit. Carolina's offense has struggled. Duke's offense hasn't been real consistent. So I don't know. It comes down to this, I think, to me, Adam. Can Carolina score enough to win this game? That's the big question. I think that's the question this week. I think it's the question next week. I think the defense is going to give Carolina a chance to win the game. It has almost every week. Here in the back half of the year, it's giving Carolina a chance every time. It comes down to, can Carolina's offense do enough to win this game? Whatever enough means, whether that's hold the ball long enough that Duke doesn't have it, whether that's get into the end zone, whether that is get explosive play, whatever it is, can the offense do enough for Carolina to win the game? That, to me, is the big question.
Which can get closer to average, the Duke defense or the Carolina offense? Whichever of those two gets closer to just league average, that's probably who wins the game. Duke's defense has been bad. They don't stop you on third down. They don't stop you in the red zone.
No, they really have struggled in the red zone.
But Carolina doesn't score in the red zone.
Carolina can't score in the red zone.
What a meeting of titans. I mean, the first time Carolina crosses inside the 20, you're about to see a battle the likes of which college football hadn't seen in a while. So Carolina's got to play with more intensity relative to the opponent than they did last week. Duke's got the best individual player on the field, probably, with Mensah, which feels like it might be determinative in a game like this, but it's at home. For the Tar Heels, they don't want to see Duke ringing that bell on Kenan Stadium. Duke, what's Duke's best win? The win that the officials gave them at Clemson?
100%. And without that, they would have lost 4 in a row coming into this game.
They haven't played very well.
Yeah, they
lately.
haven't played well here over the last month or so.
They lost to UConn, but UConn's playing better, and the reigning Fenway Bowl champions.
I saw that live. So did you.
So this is yet again a case of I don't think either one of these teams is markedly better than the other. You could convince me of anything. Ultimately, the fact that Duke has the best player on the field is concerning. I texted Jones about this week. A lot of talk about the Tar Heels and bowl eligibility. I think the Tar Heels can make a bowl at 5-7.
Yeah, APR comes into play at that point.
And Carolina is ranked very highly on the year that they're using for this year's bowls. The two above them are going to make it no matter what, which means in theory they would be the first 5-7 team picked. You might only need one more win. But would that even – well, that's a discussion for another day when it happens.
Yeah.
Right now the discussion is, can Carolina beat Duke at Kenan Stadium? Bill Belichick against Manny Diaz. Bill Belichick, some nice things to say about Manny Diaz.
He did have nice things to say.
I mean, the Carolina defense against the Duke offense is interesting, but the other side is so much more interesting.
Yeah. I can't put my finger on why Duke hasn't been better than it. Like, there was serious talk about Duke going to the playoff this year, and winning the ACC. And now they were in the mix still to get to the championship game before their loss to Virginia last week. It's been a weird year for them. I mean, they have some good players. Now, we mentioned the defense. They have been injured. They've had some key guys hurt on the defensive side. And there have been moments where that defensive front has dominated. I mean, the first half against Illinois, Adam, I know you watched Duke, Illinois back in September. The first half of that game, Duke was in the backfield every play, it felt like. Like, Illinois couldn't do anything. But it feels, and again, this is a outsider's opinion. It feels like, Duke was 6-1 in one-score games last year. It kind of feels like it's regressed to the mean this year, where just some things have happened to them at bad time. They've muffed up, like the Illinois game. They were in control early and muffed a punt and gave Illinois a really short field, and they scored and then kind of flipped the momentum. There have been several times where they've gotten into the red zone and fumbled. I mean, they fumbled like 4 times in the red zone this year. And so they've had I mentioned the field goal snaps. They've just dropped 2 field goal snaps. They had one play against Georgia Tech where they had dominated the game. I think it was their first 2 drives. They dominated. Duke did. Fumbled inside the 5. Georgia Tech picked it up and ran it back 95 yards for a touchdown. Then Duke drove down the field again, and they dropped the snap on a field goal attempt. They could have easily been up 10-0, and instead they were down 7-0. And so there have just been some things like that have hurt them as well. So I don't know. I think Duke has some good players. I do, particularly on the offensive side and particularly on the defensive front. But I don't think that Duke – I don't know what the line is. I don't know any of that. But I don't think they should be heavily favored in this. Neither of these teams has shown that they are capable of 100% going out and doing exactly what they want and winning the game. Neither one of them has done that this year.
In what appears to be a close game, Duke's inability to consistently kick field goals.
Yeah, they've struggled. They've struggled. Todd Polino, 11 of 16 in field goals this year. Plus, as I mentioned, there have been some mistakes as well.
And the Tar Heels got a lot of confidence in that area at the moment.
If they can keep them from being blocked.
Well, once the kick is away, Jones.
Yeah. So, Carolina's offensive line is going to be under pressure. It has not been good the last 2 weeks. Even Stanford win. And, Adam, I do think one last thing here. Carolina's got to find a way to run the ball. I mean, Carolina can't line up and say, okay, we're passing it. We know we're passing it, but we're going to block you up and have something happen on the back end and we're going to complete this for 17 yards, even though we all know what we're doing here. Like, Carolina needs the run game to provide some deception in play action and to just keep the threat of either play occurring. Now, some of that is formation. Carolina's gone empty a ton, and when you are an empty, you're obviously either going to quarterback draw or pass it. And so that has been an area that has hurt Carolina here as of late. So 3:30, senior day in Chapel Hill. Always an odd senior day when you've had a big coaching transition, and especially now with so many new players. And even Michael Lombardi was like, the eligibility of some guys, how many years they have left is confusing, and it is. So Carolina, last I heard, it was going to be between 20 and 25 Tar Heels that were going to be honored. And there are some very familiar names, Will Hardy, Austin Blasky, Kobe Paysor. So, there's some guys that for sure are going to be honored who have played some significant snaps, and even guys like Andrew Simpson, who are one-year guys at Carolina, but who have been big parts of the team this year. Gavin Gibson, another. So, senior day as well, and Tar Heels looking for a big win. Carolina Duke, battle for the victory bell. 3:30. We're on the air at 2:30. Kenan Stadium.